I had my family over for the first time in a while this past weekend. It was a little colder in my area than I had thought, and I had planned for us to take a walk outside. Instead of that, I thought we should stay indoors. I thought maybe we could try playing D&D. My parents are a little older, and it's something I would never think for them to try, but they agreed to play, surprisingly. And even more surprisingly, it went very well. Hi, I'm Captain Jupes, and the purpose of this video is to give you a free 1 hour, 1.5 hour adventure that, if you're playing for the first time, is a not much commitment length of play with everything drawn out for you, and it's super simple to use. I use it on my parents, and you can use it if you're a first-time DM or player. I'm going to be walking you through the characters I used, of which there were 2, the area where we were, which could be reconstituted to be whatever you wanted it to be, the 2 encounters that I ran, which will be absolutely simple to use, and then a little bit of the role-playing aspect of the game. So there's a little bit of an investigation, a little bit of a chase, and a little bit of decisions to make on how the players react. And that's kind of the best part of role-playing games, tabletop in general, is those 2 pieces. So I'll kind of discuss a little bit more about how to get the best out of that. The 2 characters I used were Dodd, the local town headman, and his daughter Bess. His daughter you don't even meet until the end of the adventure, so her you can almost ignore. Dodd, you only meet him at the beginning and he doesn't stick with the party, so if you're worried about keeping track of NPCs, what they do, what they say, and if they are going to fight or not, you don't need to worry about that. Dodd should never enter combat, and neither should Bess. At least, hopefully not. It's because of this I wouldn't even consider to give them a stat block. However, if you're really pressed, and since it's an early game, first level, you can expect that Dodd is not a combat-driven character. He spent his whole life managing a small village kind of at the edge of nowhere. If he's going to attack, and he shouldn't, if he's going to, if your party very much presses and you want to reward them with Dodd coming along to fight the good fight, you can maybe say he has a dagger and give him a +5 to attack, maybe less, and have him do a d4 of damage. And if he takes a hit, get him out of there. Have him running away right away. And maybe if you're a smart DM, kind of roll behind the screen and say, the attacks of opportunity or the attacks against Dodd, after that point, they don't work out, and Dodd gets away and lets the characters handle it. After all, they're the heroes. They should be doing all the work. Dodd is not there to help the heroes. He's there to get his daughter back. That's part of the adventure I'm going to discuss. The makeup of that adventure, and it follows kind of the classic of all adventures, all good one-day game adventures, is meet NPC, NPC gives quest, go on quest, return. Done. That's pretty much how this goes. In the beginning, the party is in a tavern or in a town square or somewhere. Dodd rushes up to a group that doesn't necessarily have to be just the party, but a large group, and exclaims to all of them, "I need help. My daughter Bess has been taken by some orcs, and I have no one else to turn to, other than the goodwill of you local citizens." This is where the first bit of role-playing comes in. The characters could say something like, "I volunteer right away," or they could be more standoffish. It just depends on what kind of humans you're playing with, and what kind of characters. But if this is your first game, it's probably unlikely, unless you're very lucky, that your players are actors, that they want to engage with the story right away, and they feel comfortable role-playing with everyone else around them. We're not professional actors, and so we're typically, people aren't used to being that open with themselves among others, especially if they don't all know each other from the get-go. After the party kind of meets each other, in this case that I'm talking about, it's my parents, so in my rare case, they actually all jumped on it right away. I had Dodd run up and say, "I need help," and pretty much immediately my mother said, "I will help you," and just got up. Her character just got up and rushed over to help, and my dad wasn't far behind. It was kind of shocking, to be honest, because I did not expect them to kind of engage quite that quickly. They engaged quickly. My sister, who's a 15, 16-year-old at the time, is played like a typical 16-year-old, especially among her parents, and was like, nah, I'm not sure if I really want to help mom and dad save this poor girl. So, but it's neither here nor there how it actually plays out in your game. For me, they all more or less picked it up right away. For you, you might need to do some prodding, like he may look at the character that's kind of on the fence or doesn't know what to do and say, I'd really appreciate your help. I can reward you with some money or something, some carrot. And that usually gets characters off the fence. If they still won't get off the fence at that point, what are you doing there? Why are they there? You're here to go on an adventure. Here's the adventure. Go do it. But after that point, it's kind of where the adventure starts. So what happens from this point is you go to the site, the house or the wherever the daughter was taken, and this is the chance for a player to do something called investigation. They can not necessarily the skill, but definitely use the skill in this particular moment. You would go to his house. There's obviously been a scuffle, and you would look around. And this is where you, as the DM, have a chance to kind of set the scene. You can say, oh, the door is kind of resting on its hinge or resting right off its hinge. The orc's broken, grabbed the girl and ran off. And Dodd, he might have some injuries, and he bravely fought to defend her, but unfortunately was knocked out in the conflict. At this point, the players kind of get a chance to look around and see what they want to do next. If they talk to Dodd more about it, which they probably will, that's the first thing that they would imagine. They would imagine they try. He can tell them, I think they might have come from the north. Okay, north, that's a pretty broad spectrum. What can you do more? Well, you could suggest to the players, you can ask the players first, what do you want to try to find this girl? And in my case, that worked right away. My mother was like, I would like to look for footprints of the orcs and try to track where they went. Brilliant. I've had many, many players who have not thought to do that or go that far on their own, and my mom did it right away. But if you don't have players that do that, you could suggest to them to maybe look at the ground for footprints. You could judge the trees and the tree line to see if any of them look more scuffed and detect a path that way. You could try getting up high and seeing if maybe birds are scattering in the distance. These are just ideas. You could also have a chance for the players to look around and see what kind of weapons might have been used to see if they were in good condition or poor condition. In my case, my sister rolled inside the house and found that one of their axes was broken off because it was in such disrepair. So that's a chance for them to understand that the orcs, while armed, are not a professional band. They aren't well equipped by any means. After they've done some investigation here, we go into the next phase, the chase. The chase can occur in two different ways. One, the party can try to be very stealthy, sneak up, and try to get the orcs by surprise. In my case, I said that it was kind of coming towards evening time, and the orcs would probably want to stop and camp. They only get maybe 5 to 10 miles away, and the orcs aren't really afraid of Dodd catching up to them. Plus, that village didn't have any guards. They don't need to worry. They'll probably stop. Probably. So the players can try to sneak up on them, which my players did try to do, or they could rush, run, try to stop them. Maybe they won't stop. Maybe they'll get away. Maybe the trail will run cold. This is a chance for them to be aggressive. My players were stealthy, so I'll explain how that went. They stealthed for quite a while, and as they were sort of coming up towards where the camp was, unfortunately they rolled terribly on their stealth roll. One of them rolled a natural 1, the other one rolled like a 4, and then the rogue, I think, rolled a 7. It was poor. And in this case, it was their first chance to have actual combat. But, going back a moment, the other way that chase could have gone is they're rushing, they're going very fast, and perhaps they catch up to the trail of the orcs. The orcs have a horse with a cart, and Bess is in it. As the players chase after them, they see the orcs have maybe 2 or 3 more orcs than they have in their group. So my group was 3 people, so the orcs had maybe 6. In the case of your party, you might have 4 or 5 players, in which case you just make that number. It's just a number that's supposed to be just a little bit bigger than your players, and they're definitely not supposed to engage the players all at once. In your case, if they're coming rushing towards you and they've almost got to the orcs, what you do is, in role play, not in game mechanics, you say, oh, a small group of the orcs break off from the group and attempt to delay the party or stop them or kill them or grab them themselves to do whatever it is they're trying to do with Bess. Dramatic tension. In that case, you simply say, okay, we're going to roll initiative, and then you don't give them a chance to catch up or chase or anything like that. You don't want them to accidentally force upon you them getting into a fight that they're not ready to win. This is presumably maybe their first combat they've ever had, so it's supposed to be easy. You take a number of orcs, about half of the players you have. So I had 3, so I sent 2 orcs at them. 1 guy with range, 1 guy with melee, and they're orcs. They're going to go down pretty quick to 3 heroes. And then I even went so far as the players did really well in the first combat, in the first moments of combat. So I said, okay, the one with range blows on a horn, and then a round later, a wolf appeared, and it added a little bit of extra dramatic tension. I made the wolf very weak. I think it only was supposed to take either 1 big hit or 2 small hits, so it would go down very quickly. But it adds like a, oh no, they're getting reinforcements kind of moment, which turned out really well. After the party finishes fighting the 2 orcs and the wolf, or for your case, a number about half to the group that you're running, this is a chance for them to stop, kind of do their first corpse looting adventure, pick over the orcs. They shouldn't have much, maybe a couple pieces of silver or something small. And if they go for the weapons, and they earlier, in my case earlier, my sister had already found out that the weapons weren't in good repair, this is another time for you to kind of add some continuity, which makes you look really good as a DM. And you say, you look at their weapons, and just like you have seen before, or maybe for the first time you seeing it, the players are seeing it, you say, they're in disrepair, your weapons are far superior, and these are just cobbled together garbage. You wouldn't even be able to fetch a price in scrap for them, and the players leave them. You're not looking to give them anything too impressive just yet anyway. However, the arrows that the ranged character had are surely just as good, or maybe they're not. Maybe you have your ranger or your ranged character not have the arrows. In my case, I pretty much give arrows out like candy. Anything ranged ammo wise, I either give the ranged stuff out like wholesale because I don't want to worry about whether or not the ranged character runs out of ammo, or I just say, we're not going to worry about it. We're going to assume that somehow you are always stocked up. And it's one of those things in D&D that I just don't have any time for, is to help the player manage how much ammo they have or can use, and you probably don't want to bother with that either. Or maybe you do, in which case go ahead. In any case, this is the chance for the party to kind of rest and reset. They know that the orcs are camping, although maybe you'll have the orcs be gearing up to leave. They've seen that the party has defeated their away team, but probably not. In this case, I would recommend that the orcs that broke off, they broke off early enough if it was in a desperate chase, or if they're stealthed, the orcs found them and the rest of the camp isn't alerted. So I would leave the camp alone, leave it in one place so the players feel like they have a chance to rest if they've been hit a couple times, and also it gives them a chance to plan. So in my case, I had them in a little cave, just a tiny cave, maybe like a 5 or 6 square by 5 or 6 square cave. I use miniatures, but you don't have to. You could do something online or theater of the mind, all as well. Yeah, in my case, there was a cave. There was an orc outside the cave who was asleep. The guard is terrible, which is another great opportunity for them to try learning about a surprise round. So if the party stealths up, they get a chance to all see that guard, that sentry, is asleep. Or even if they don't stealth, this is actually a good opportunity to teach them they can do things in multiple ways. If you have the party not stealth up, you can say, oh, the orc was asleep. If he wasn't, he would have noticed you. But if you were stealthed, you could say, you're stealthed. In this case, you sneak up on him and he doesn't wake up. But if you did like just walk up without stealth, you could still give the party a chance to kind of be okay and say, actually, usually you might want to stealth up to these sorts of situations. But in this case, you're kind of in the clear. And this gives them kind of a view into what they can do to be more tactical in the future. In any case, this gives them a chance to shoot at the orc or do whatever at the orc all at the same time. They get a surprise round, and he's supposed to die pretty much right away, leaving just a better orc. There's an orc chief in the monster manual. Do not use that. You use something easier. This is meant to be their first game, and I don't want it to take too long. So you have maybe one orc that's still in there with the orc chief, about 2 or 3 times the health of a normal orc, maybe with the same attack roll as the normal orc, with maybe an extra 1 or 2 in the swing, and certainly maybe only 1 in the AC. You want them to be hitting pretty well. And this video does assume that you know at least the general mathematics stuff, like what an attack roll is, what armor class is. If we were to explain those things, it would be a more in-depth video. But yeah, this is it. This is the final confrontation. The party will fight the slightly more stronger orc and maybe one other orc, and once they defeat him, he maybe says some dramatic thing like, I will destroy you, or some such. And Bess is in the corner or in the cart or wherever she is, and she's in my case, I like to not do the damsel in distress thing too much because I feel it's a little tropey. So Bess is fighting against her bonds, trying to get out, and maybe right when the orc is on like its last leg, if he's on one more hit left, she actually gets free, grabs an axe, and runs over to help you. But obviously I would like the heroes to defeat the powerful enemy for their first time. It's just to show that Bess, she can take care of herself to a certain degree. It's at this point that the adventure has been won. The party presumably has some means of transportation. Obviously, they took Bess and put her on something, or maybe they just carried her on her back. I think it's probably easier to give the party like a horse and a cart here, so they kind of understand, okay, I can just ride back, and it kind of gives the impression that it's easier. Bess, she maybe gives a couple swipes at the dead body of the orc and says, they've been bothering us for weeks. They've been attacking the edges of the village all this time. And my father just has no idea how to deal with it. They just keep coming, and in greater numbers recently. We have no idea why. And this is like, well, maybe we should figure out what's going on there. This is an opportunity to give the players a plot hook for the next time, and maybe they'll come and want to find out why are these orcs here? Where did they come from? Why are they attacking the village all of a sudden? This seems like a new thing, according to Bess. But that's for next time. You take Bess, she comes back, Dodd is pleased, and he puts the party up in the tavern or the local house or something, and with great thanks, he gives the party their promised reward. He doesn't try to slight them or anything, or maybe you want him to try to do that, and that could be an interesting dramatic moment where Dodd is like, thank you so much for the help. I'll be taking my daughter, and you can leave. And this gives the party a chance to be like, wait a second, we just helped you. Where's our money? That's a different sort of kind of interaction with an NPC that I maybe wouldn't do for the first time. Dodd isn't a powerful character that could kind of try to slight the characters like that. But yeah, Bess is back. She's been returned. She's pleased. She's angry, and she wants to fight the orcs. And maybe she will come on with you guys as a helper for the next leg of the adventure, or maybe not. It's up to the DM, really. But there you go. That's the whole adventure. You start wherever you start. Dodd comes up, gives them this quest out of nowhere. They go on it. They have one small fight, then some investigation. They have some chase mechanic there, and then they have another fight with a more powerful enemy, and then they have some role-playing opportunities, both at the beginning to talk to Dodd and at the end to talk to Bess and Dodd. And then that's it. That's the whole adventure. I went ahead and made up a little one-sheet sort of summary document of the whole adventure, which I will attach below, or put up maybe here. You're right there. Yeah, right there. And that's kind of the basic summary of what happened, and I'll have a link down there as well. And if you so desired, you could print it off, and it would be an easy little one-page reference sheet. But yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching the video. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it was helpful. I hope you get some of it out of it. I hope you try and run a 5th edition game for your parents, because I think it might work out differently than you would expect, because it certainly did the same for me. Like, comment, subscribe, that whole thing. Thank you. Goodbye.